Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you get this. It's morning right now. Where I am, it's morning. Okay, so there's a reality to life. There's a reality to life. There's a reality. And it's not what man wants it to be. It's what God made it as. Life is as God made it. And He's in control, and there are laws that determine how things function. There are laws that determine how things operate. The wisdom of God is a revelation of His laws in your heart. So when you understand what God is doing, and you can apply that knowledge in relationship with Him, when you understand, when the Spirit of God explains things to your heart, to the extent that you act out what you are given, when you do what you understand, that's wisdom. When you do what you understand. Okay, so there's a phrase. I don't know if you've ever heard it. I suppose you have. Maybe you have not, depending on what generation you come from. So when you do what you understand, you're classified as wise. I just want to make that clear. When you don't do what you understand, what you say you would know is true, when you don't do what you say you know is true, that's foolishness. That's foolishness. So, that stated, there's a phrase. It's a part of American heritage. There's a phrase, a part of American heritage, and I used to see it, and the phrase says, and hopefully we can retain connection among the interstate. The phrase says, give me liberty or give me death. Give me liberty or give me death. That's the phrase. And that phrase is associated with what's known by many as the American Revolution. That phrase is, so that's the basis of that. I hope you can hear me. Let me turn off my Bluetooth just to make sure you can hear me. All right, so hopefully everything was clear. There's a phrase associated with American heritage, and that is, give me liberty or give me death. And then there's another phrase associated with American heritage, and it's a part of a song sung by people who at the time, I suppose, were slaves. And the phrase was, before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave. That was the phrase. So one phrase is, give me liberty or give me death. Another phrase is, before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. So you've got two different sets of people exclaiming their desire for liberty and freedom. They might not understand the fullness of what freedom is, but the heart understands freedom. The heart understands it because the heart is from the Lord. Man is from the Lord, and his heart is crafted by God. It might be corrupt, but it understands a measure of truth. It understands truth to the extent that it knows the direction in which it's supposed to go. Generally, God puts it in man to know the truth. Men reject that, and that's a separate matter, which is not really a separate matter. Got some light there. All right, well, you're good. So, as the ages change, and as the devil increases his control over people through their fears and their love for money, I walk about, I go to the stores, and I notice that there are people at the stores, some who wear their virus protection masks, and some who don't. Some who, as soon as people stopped asking them or forcing them not to wear the mask, they took their masks off. And I'm only using that as a reference because it's a modern reference for manipulation and fear and slavery. And slavery to what? Slavery to the silence of the voice of God. So I'm only using that to say that most people are not hearing from God. So all they can hear from is their own thoughts and the thoughts of other people who aren't hearing from God. So there are people who are not hearing from God, so they don't know what's going to happen to them or their world. They have to come to their own conclusions based on their limited understanding of everything. And they have to submit to the conclusions of others who have been manipulated to lie to them and to afflict them. So there are people who are being attacked, and their attackers are telling them false ways to avoid the attacks. And because people despise Jesus, they are not given the wisdom to know how to respond to their situation. So you have some people who will do essentially whatever they are told to do because they are afraid of what will happen to them because they don't know the future. And then you have people who have this inner desire to be free. And I remember when I was in the military, for the 6 weeks that I was there, and as I was in the military, and I prayed to the Lord Jesus to get me out of that prison, the Lord responded to me. He responded to me and he showed me that I was only there out of fear and pride. Various forms and types of fear and pride. And that if I would not submit myself to him, he would not rescue me from that evil decision to have joined. And so I obeyed. Initially, I reluctantly obeyed, and he was merciful. And so he started the process of having me leave. I didn't have to lie to anybody about any crazy condition, even though I tried to prior to that. And so I spoke to my superiors. They set up a meeting for me to meet with some of their people to evaluate whether I could leave. And as I was sitting in this evaluation room, this lady, she was talking to me about my state of mind. And as we were talking, she said to me very clearly that you, David Williams, you signed a contract. You are obligated to that contract. So, you have to be here. It's either here or it's nowhere. She looked me in my eyes and told me that I had to be there. She said, it's either here or it's nowhere. And as I was sitting in that office area, I looked outside. I'm sitting in this chair. I'm hoping she's going to relieve me of this contractual agreement. And I look outside and I see the sky. I see the blue sky. I see the clouds. I see civilians walking around without having to submit to this order. I see civilians. I see birds. And my heart recognized that as freedom. And she said to me, it's going to be here or nowhere. And I looked outside and I took all of that in within a few seconds. And I said to her, it's going to be nowhere. And I just slouched down in my chair after I said that to her. Like, well, I guess it'll be nowhere. Because I don't know what to do from this point. But I know what I don't want to do. And just slouched down in my chair. And she just huffed, got up from her chair and walked away. She came back with paperwork and she dropped it on the desk and said, take this to this office down here. And they agreed to let me go. Some people, but the Spirit of God gave me grace and wisdom and the courage, the fortitude to say, no. I don't believe that you all are the key to my future. No. I don't believe your false sense of protection. No. I don't believe your false sense of valor. No. I disagree that this is right and that I should be a part of it. I am a Christian. No. I cannot do this any more. I will not go any further. Jesus had put that in my heart to desire freedom to the extent that I was able to do that. And I see people, and some of them believe that they are in danger. Some people are more readily conquerable than others. And I hope I'm not stimulating the pride and the arrogance of the ignorant. But I am saying that some people, naturally speaking, are they're more readily conquerable. They surrender more readily to life and things. And some people are ambitious. Some people are ambitious and they're unwilling to just do vain things just because they're being threatened. Some people would rather be sick than enslaved. Some people would rather be dead than to have a false sense of freedom. There's a natural awareness and a spiritual awareness. some people have this natural sense of truth where they are unwilling to submit themselves to natural tyranny. Like, no, you are manipulating me. I'm a free person. I understand the concept of general government. That's overreach. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. So there's a natural level of awareness, and that's what we see in the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. Hey, man, you can't do that to me. I'm created, you're created, we're created, and there's certain things I have access to that you have access to, and just because you have more money or weapons, that doesn't make you my superior. And so they fight. You know, the worldly people who understand that worldly level of it will fight you. Like, no, you have to kill me. You're not going to enslave me. You have to kill me. And I don't make a good slave dead. And you don't make a good master wounded. I'm going to wound you as you kill me, because I'm not going to do that. That's unreasonable. That's unjustifiable. So some people have a natural level of that. And then for the saved, there's a spiritual level of it. Like, hey, I'm a Christian and I have orders to keep. And there's an authority that I've been given and that I am subordinate to. And to that I will submit as he tells me things. And so when I'm lied to by those who don't follow my superior will tell me, hey, they're lying to you. And he might tell me to submit to those lies. Hey, submit to that. They're lying to you. Submit to that, though, because I have higher purposes for you. So submit to that. Yeah, he might tell me, hey, they're lying to you. Just take it. Or he may say, hey, they're lying to you. Do not obey. Do not conform to that. And so as I see the people just so willingly respond to every prompt that they're given by the very same people who are attacking them, by the very same devil, you realize that naturally speaking, but also spiritually speaking, some are more readily enslaved because their hearts don't submit to the truth. They don't understand truth is more valuable than physical life. And so when someone says, give me liberty or give me death, they're saying life as a manipulated subordinate, as I understand it, is not worth living. I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my friends, I love my parents, I love the fields, I love the trees. I'd rather die, because this is not what it is. And Jesus said, if you love your life, you will lose it. And what he was preaching was eternity. And he was saying, if you don't understand eternity, then you are going to be manipulated, A, by your sinfulness, and B, by the sinfulness of others, and C, by the devil, who is a murderous sinner. He's a spiritual sinner. He's a spirit. He's a sinner. And he steals, kills, and destroys. And he's got more access to those of us that are cowards. So it doesn't matter what role you occupy. You might be a pastor. You might be a brother in the faith, supposedly. You might be a sister. You might be a knowledgeable person. You might be an educator. You might be somebody who somebody else respects. But the reality is, if the Holy Ghost does not give you a desire for freedom, a freedom that says, I'm going to obey the Lord because he is God. So I am. So obeying Jesus is not slavery. Yes, there's terminology like that, and that's not the essence of it. That's not the truth of it. That's not the eternal status of it. You are maker. He's your father. You do what your father, your progenitor, tells you to do. I'm your father. I birthed you. I developed you. You are mine, every aspect of your identity. So it's right to be a son and to submit to his image. But people need to understand that as we get closer to the fall of the false things, as we get closer, that we're going to have to make those decisions more readily. And if you are not converted, you are already among the manipulated. And you should come to Jesus, because you don't understand life. You don't have access to it, nor do you understand life outside of his personhood. Jesus is freedom. He's freedom from deception. He's freedom from rebellion. He's freedom from idolatry. He's freedom from bondage to the devil and the sinful physical people. So may the Spirit of God make you among those who are unwilling to just do what the enemy is telling you to do. Or you will be among the conquered.